Warning, the language used in this video is overdramatic and a little bit weird. When I woke up on Wednesday, I was full of ambition. I was going to do the ultimate art challenge. I was going to take the Pinterest challenge, where the components of your drawing are dictated by Pinterest, and I was going to then use it with the multi-style drawing, where you draw in the styles of different shows or movies or video games. I was also going to do each style of drawing in a different medium, like gouache or acrylic or marker or collage. And then, to make it that much more epic, I was going to throw in the inverted color challenge, where, yeah, you draw like this. I was ready. I got out my supplies, I sat down, and I started drawing. And it turns out, challenges are challenging, man! The first one was kind of a practice one, so I didn't feel too bad, but then the second one was also bad, and so was the third! And by the time it was the end of the day, I went, this isn't going to work. But I still need a video for this week. Then the glow stick had an idea. An awful idea. The glow stick had a terrible, awful idea. I thought it was very clever. I would make my own challenge. A twist on the Redraw Your Artwork challenge. I was going to take a drawing that I liked and turn it into pixel art, and then make it out of perler beads. I even had a drawing in mind. I had already turned it into an embroidered patch, so I figured modifying it for perler beads would be easy, and it kind of was. With a proven color scheme and a pose that was already figured out, there was no way this project would fail. It's practically tracing, but since I'm ripping off my own work, no one can complain about it. I made a Photoshop file with 1 pixel per peg on my board and shrank down an image of the drawing until it was a blurry mess. Then I went in with the pencil tool at 1 point size and started figuring out the colors. It's a fun exercise to do this anyway, because it's good practice to try and get the most information across with the least amount of detail. The only thing I struggled with was drawing pixel circles. I ended up looking up a guide for that and using the circle select for bigger ones. I spent 1 hour separating out the green pearl colors from the blue pearl colors, which are almost identical, and then I got to it. It was just as easy as I dreamed. Once the hard part of figuring out the pattern is done, it's basically just copy-paste. Everything was going according to Keikaku. It was only 3 a.m. I was 3/4 done the astronaut, and it was already looking better than it did on the computer. But everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. When the very cell phone you trusted to record and document your work instead leaps free of the tripod and destroys it, it is a betrayal of the most heinous kind. All seemed lost. The once beautiful and nearly complete astronaut was now only a few cigarette butts away from being a Jackson Pollock. Morning was rapidly approaching, and despair began to set in. But what is an artist but one who perseveres in the face of failure? Unless it's a failure to do 4 art challenges at the same time and then, forget it. Then they can go do something else. But what is an artist but one who perseveres in the face of failure at doing something relatively easy? So I persevered. I picked up the beads one by one and placed them in their slots, and gradually my noble astronaut began to look less like a pixelated face on Google Street View, and more like that Banksy painting that was sold for £1 million and then went halfway through a built-in shredder. Things were looking up. It was nearing 5 a.m., but we were getting closer to the place we were before Brutus's unexpected treachery. But then, again, disaster! As all good stories are rife with conflict, so too was my epic battle with the beads of deception. You are doubtless familiar with the game 52 pickup, in which your comedian friend lets all the cards in the deck fly loose so that you can retrieve them like a trained monkey. I can only hope none of you ever have to have the experience of playing 5000 pickup. Yes, like a glorious sunset sends scattered beams of colors through hundreds of tiny dewdrops across every blade of grass, so too did my container of beads scatter bright specks of color pretty much everywhere. I still wasn't done the astronaut, and I was not going to clean that up. Yet. I can now say, however, with some authority that the moon landing was faked, because I know, with the utmost certainty, that the moon looks like this. I elected to ignore the beads on the ground as one ignores a misbehaving dog so as not to encourage future misdeeds. I had work to do, and if the beads were so desperate for attention that they had to act out, that was very much a they problem. My decision was rewarded when at last at 6 a.m. the astronaut version 2 was complete. All that remained was to iron it. Unfortunately, the long night spent in battle had wreaked havoc on my ability to make any sort of sense at all, and I began to sounding something like this. I want a candy, but the thing with the candies in it has a bunch of perler beads on the floor,
in between me and the candy. And it's like... Does this connect? Yes. It's like, a sea full of crocodiles. Only it's Perler Beads. And, instead of needing to get across the river to do something important, like a quest thingy, it's, I want candy. Because I've been talking to myself for a few hours. And I'm like, sure, it would be nice to have candy. That's all. Maybe I'll get it anyway. Maybe I'll just step on the Perler Beads. And then they'll fuse to me. And then I will have their power.
Nevertheless, I was determined to press on, and as soon as I was able, I rushed to iron it. As it turns out, Perler beads do best when they are not ironed in a rush. As I went to flip it over to iron the back, several beads that I thought were fused together proved otherwise, and I now had to try to realign them by hand with neither the pegboard to help or the pixel guide to remind me where they were meant to go. But due to sheer force of artistic genius, I got it back into some semblance of order. And it was done. But ho, you did not think our tale ended there, did you? For what is an astronaut without some weird planet of dubious scientific plausibility floating behind them at just the right size to make an effective backdrop without it being so close that the astronaut needs to worry about actually landing on it, which means I'd need to do a background, which... no. Never fear! Though the planet may be dark, our intrepid hero will light the way by virtue of their reflective, fluorescent 90s spacesuits. These boots were made for skating on Saturn, and dang, but if space is cold and dark, we're gonna bring with us enough blinding hues to flood the whole galaxy. It is now midday, and the planet was ready to be ironed. But then, disaster! Sort of. Some of the black beads were from a different set and melted at a lower temperature. Now some of it is beautiful and smooth, and some of it is melty and weird. But to that I say, moons have craters. So it was 100% on purpose. Onward! As the outer ring of the planet required a bigger pegboard than I possessed, all that remained was the mystical Lisa Frank clouds that are definitely natural and probably not poisonous or sentient. The first row of clouds, though tedious, went quickly enough to give hope that my dream of copying my own artwork without actually having to draw it would one day come to fruition. As these would go behind the planet, I added in a line of beads connecting them together to add stability and make it easier to attach it all together. I was tired, so I did not film the process, but the second row of clouds went just as well as the first. But then, disaster again! Good gracious! Upon transferring the clouds to the ironing board, some unconscionable gremlin, for surely it could not have been me, knocked into the fourth panel of the pegboard, resulting in beads! Once again, everywhere. But I, now a seasoned Perler veteran with many hours of experience under my belt, had little trouble repairing the damage. The beads, at last recognizing their defeat, gave no further trouble for the last row of clouds. Finally, the pieces were coming together. With the aid of some guerrilla repair tape, the fates of the clouds, planets, and astronauts are henceforth intertwined. Side note, it turns out guerrilla repair tape doesn't actually hold beyond a few hours, so I'm probably gonna have to go in with clear thread and sew it together. Great. Photoshop files were closed. Monologues were written. 5,000 beads were returned to the bin, except for the ones near Spider. Some of the beads had decades-old glitter on them that was then transferred to my hair, and although I look like Michaels in December, I feel like Moomin Valley in the spring. Our 21-hour journey is now complete. All that remains is the final documentation from the historian, and I am going to sleep. Please like and subscribe if you like whatever the heck this was, and hit the notification bell to get the notifications from the bell. Let me know in the comments if you would like to hear the 20-minute version of me talking nonsense to myself at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, cut down from an hour and a half. Also, if you have any other suggestions for art challenges, but that are not terribly difficult so that I can actually do them, let me know in the comments. Do you have other Perler bead designs you would like to see? Do you just want to say hi? That's all. Write a note. I'm going to bed.
You guys want to watch my videos? Like and subscribe and leave a comment and click the bell for notifications. And wait by your computer for a notification saying that I have a new video. It's always going to be on Fridays, but wait for it all week anyway, because you never know. And until YouTube, give me lots lots of money.